Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. My name is Mark. My name is A Shadow Link, and I'm going to just take us right in. Sorry. Oh boy. Hello. Welcome to the stream.
Whoa. We're here. It's time. Good morning, Source Gaming. I told you last week that we'd be back. No more half a year breaks for us.
Oh boy.
And yes, as you might have seen, we've hired Markiplier. He's here. Say hello, Markiplier. No, in all seriousness though. We've got a new member of the team joining us. Some of you will probably know him on Discord already, but for those who don't, I want to give a big welcome to our new graphics team member, Kriegs.
Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier. Today we're going to be playing Five Nights at Freddy.
Wow, what a profile image. That is one handsome little puffball right there.
It's a very handsome little guy.
Yeah. It's putting us to shame, Matt.
I think something's broken. Hold on.
Oh god.
Oh god. Suppose you to host a podcast with the phrase "Good morning" in the title. Excuse you. It's good morning somewhere in the world.
Silence, Australian.
Yeah. I have to deal with it every week at 3 p.m. It may as well wake up and make it my morning at this point. But yes, we have a new member of the team. Kriegs is going to be helping us out with the graphics for the website, for thumbnails, headers, etc. So you should see him more around on Discord, and you should hopefully be seeing some of his work show up in future videos and articles and the like. So yes, give him a big welcome. We thought a good way to introduce him would be to bring him on Good Morning Source Gaming, because he also has a decent mic. So there we go. That's a plus. Always a plus for a new member.
Never claim to be good. Only claim to be decent.
Well, Creeks, as this is obviously your first episode, and I can already tell some people in the chat know who you are, but in case anyone listening doesn't, why don't you give a little spiel about yourself?
Okay. Well, let's try to make this brief. I joined the SG Discord back around 2018 when Ultimate's teaser was first released during the March Nintendo Direct. I came across SG's content just because, at the time everybody was looking for Smash stuff, because that was all that was on our mind. It was like, oh, new Smash teaser. We don't know what it's going to be, what it's going to look like, but there's a new Smash Bros. Game being made, and we all want to talk about it. So I ended up coming across, I think it was specifically the Stages video that you guys made around that point in time.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up joining the Discord, because unlike a lot of people, I actually read the descriptions of videos that I click on. So I ended up coming into the Discord, and I was obviously I've just been very active since then. I used to be known as at Skilled Crom, which apparently Nanton actually was not aware that we were the same person until about 5 minutes ago.
Yep.
Yeah, but some of you guys, if you've been active in the Source Gaming Discord, you probably have already run into me. For a period of time, I was the most active member in the server. I wrote the episode of the all content on Dark Souls, and also captured a good amount of the in-game footage for it. Which also means that I am unfortunately the reason that we have a clip out there, an audio clip of Nanten saying the phrase certified bangers, which I am very sorry for in hindsight.
You set me up for that.
I did set you up for that. To be fair, I don't think I would have put certified bangers playlist in the script if I knew you were going to read it word for word. I remember specifically when that episode came out, I was like, oh, Oh man, some of the stuff that I made him say, because I just didn't expect you to use it. I thought it
Yeah.
would come back with a hey, can you rewrite this? But no, it was completely um
I want to get that
it was
authentic
completely
intent
allowed.
across there. Getting everyone's opinions as is across on the site.
Me when I make Nintenjix say surpassing all expectations in relation to Astral Chain.
See, I don't mind saying that because I like that game.
It's very funny. You're aware of the meme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyway.
Wario. Wario made me say the title of the last boss of Devil May Cry 2 without me realizing that's what it was.
Got him. You should never trust anything that Wario gives you to say.
That's
You should
true.
know this.
That being said, earlier Wario did point out I actually don't play that many Kirby games. We just use this icon because this icon was something that I drew for a recent bingo and was actually part of the images that I showed Nanton for just examples of my previous work when I was hired onto the team. We thought it would be really funny to introduce me with this icon, but because I am not a big Kirby guy, it is not the icon that we plan on using. Slink, I think you have the main icon loaded up in there.
I'm gonna take that. Yeah.
I accidentally muted
Silence, yes.
myself. I
Oh, nice.
There it is.
So is this the Jump Force OC you were telling me
This is
about?
Not the Jump Force OC.
no.
Oh.
This is Ethan Winters. If you could tell, you probably can't because of everything that I've done to him. This was I can post something in the stream channel. There was an old icon. It's the icon that we use for the server, but it used to be an icon that I used. It's the one that I use on my Twitter right now. That let me see if I can just find the file real quick.
Honestly, I didn't even know Ethan Winters had a face.
Oh no, yeah, he does. He has a face model that's entirely I believe in RE8 it's entirely textured and everything. They just shadow it out.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Um
Yeah. I thought because it was in
but I
first
used to
person, they didn't
use
bother.
right. I used to use this, but we found out recently that the image this was made from an RE7 render was actually a fan work. So we said, all right, we're gonna have to make a new one with RE8 if I want to use it for the website. And this was the abomination that I created as a response because the original Ethan edit that we made was a sort of lightning in a bottle. And I realized I was going to have to really sell it to get the specific chaotic energy of Ethan Sans Winters.
Oh boy. You put the original one on the stream, Matt, so other people can see it. Yeah. Do it, show them.
Okay.
Show them how it's evolved.
I gotta download it real quick.
So, why Ethan Winters of all characters?
I don't know. So I really liked RE7 when it came out, and excuse me, sorry. I really liked RE8 when it came out. But I think it was more so just that around the time RE8 came out, there were a lot of really funny memes that were happening around Ethan, and I just decided to change my profile picture to this on a whim because we were messing around with it, and at that point, I changed my Steam name to just Ethan Winters in all caps, which it still is to this day. And it just sort of stuck. Like, for some reason, I don't know why, but Ethan Winters from Resident Evil has just become a part of my my online brand.
You're slowly morphing into Ethan Winters.
I'm slowly morphing to. I'll become mold before we know it.
So that's the original now on screen. with the remade version, you're going to be seeing a lot more of. Across
Yeah,
the
you see, that's
site.
the Smash 4 render. It's the ultimate render in my
Yeah.
icon.
Why Diddy Kong in the background?
So
Oh no.
I,
Oh no.
that's a whole other story,
Ooh.
actually. So the long and short of it is, you can see the style with like
The
like
scan
the
lines.
teal green and the black and white icons are
Mhm.
just those lines are something on all of my icons. My Discord icon right now is like a picture of Ashley Graham from that Heidi of the Alps style Resident Evil 4 trailer that they did. Um,
Oh yeah, I recognize it now. I was wondering who it was. I got distracted by the green
yeah,
eye.
very very edited, very color edited.
Mhm.
But the general style that I've had for this, I have a background from a Eve music video from the musician Eve, but for the backgrounds of all my other profile pics, the general like template that I've been using since I made this Ethan one is just have like something in the foreground with like glowing light in their left eye, and then slap these like line borders around them, and in the background is just scan lines with like some images repeated. There was a profile pic that I had where it was just a bunch of Jeb Bush doing the during the Jeb sweep pose. There was uh, there was another one. I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot of old graffiti art. At one point I just used a screenshot from the Wii game Mad World.
Sure, why not?
The Diddy Kong render is specifically from it is from an emote that we have in our personal Discord server that is called Persona 5 Arena Guantanamo Bay, and it is just that picture of Diddy Kong just standing, just staring straight forward at the camera. And
What?
I don't know why, and I don't think we have time to explain how it got to that point, but for whatever reason, that render of Diddy Kong with that file name just became a meme in our friend group.
There's some deep lore going on
There,
behind the
there's
scenes
a
in
lot
this
of
Discord.
Slick can confirm. Uh, Almost every bit that Slink and I and our friend group has is so wrapped up in lore that it is actually it is actually kind of concerning.
You're gonna need to start writing some Discord lore books to keep it all together.
Some lore books, yeah.
Get the continuity
Or the
role
Kriegs
input in.
Masterworks Volume
Yeah.
3.
Oh man. Well, as we all usually do on Good Morning Source Gaming, is we always start by talking about the games that we've currently been playing. And as this is your introductory episode, Creeks, why don't you go first? What have you been up to recently? What game's been on your fingertips?
Unfortunately, given that I've been a little bit broke lately, I haven't been able to play Final Fantasy 16 yet. But because of that, I've taken some time to clear out some stuff from my backlog. Over the course of the past week or two, I've been banging out Ys Origin, which is very good.
Hmm.
A couple years ago, I got into the Ys series of action RPGs. Started with 8, which seems like a very strange place to start a game, but thankfully most of these are relatively not disconnected, but don't require very much prior knowledge.
Hmm.
8 was a very good one to pick up first. I went from 8 to Memories of Celceta, which is a remake of 4, then went to 9. And now I'm playing through Origin, which is in a different style from the ones that I'm used to. Ys evolved from being a Zelda-like to a top-down hack and slash action RPG to being a party-based hack and slash action RPG with the
Okay.
later titles. And Origin was created at the end of um, the second category before they started introducing the party-based mechanics. And as
Hmm.
such, is sort of the culmination of that style. It is a extremely fun game, um, very pleasant art style, great music, as is the case for all of those Falcom RPGs like Legend of Heroes, Trails, and Ys. Um,
Hmm.
it's set up in a very interesting way. it has a fairly decent amount of content for an RPG, but that content is laid out in a very approachable, kind of bite-sized way because there are three playthroughs, each with three playable characters. Two are available from the start, and one of them has to be unlocked. That each play differently. One of them is a standard melee character, one is a sorcerer, and one is a character with claws that is very, fast, rush down, but also a glass cannon. Um, and each campaign with each of them takes you through roughly the same content, but with different puzzle solutions, a different story. Certain things will be tackled in a potentially different order, or problems will be solved in different ways. And it manages to stop itself from being stale because each playthrough is only about 6 hours long. It is very good. It's currently on sale for about 450 on the Steam Summer Sale. Anybody that's interested in getting into the East franchise, I definitely recommend Ys Origins. It is a very good game.
Hmm. Yeah, so Ys Origins is actually the only Ys game I've ever actually touched. It's the only experience I have with the whole series. And I don't actually own the game. I happen to be visiting a friend when they were playing through it, and I think it was their first Ys game as well. And I just played a bit of it then. I can't remember I have no idea what the context was, but I remember thinking that the gameplay was super fun, and I'm pretty sure I was fighting like a boss or something in some sort of Colosseum looking arena. But I remember thinking it seemed really cool, and really enjoying how the flow of combat was. Um, but that's literally all I know about the Ys franchise. I remember when I saw Ys 8 announced on the Switch, I was like surprised by how completely different it looked compared to Origin.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's really fun looking through those games as like they progress because you, like I said, Zelda or not Zelda, East 1, 2 are a strange top down Zelda like where you have something called bump combat. You just run into enemies to damage them,
oh,
like in
okay.
for the
Oh,
Frogs the Bell Tolls on GBA,
mm-hmm.
or not GBA on
On
GB
Game
Color.
Boy, yeah.
And the
Interesting.
yeah, and Yeast 3 was like a weird. It was like a
Like,
weird side-scrolling game like Zelda 2, which they thankfully remade in the later style.
okay, yeah, because
And
I'm taking a look at it at East 3 now, and it's just a straight up side scroll.
oh yeah,
What?
no, Yeast 3 is so the really interesting thing about the Yeast games is Yeast 3 and 4 are only available through their full-on remakes in later platforms because the original Yeast 3 was basically Zelda 2, and the original East
That
4
sounds Kino.
was like an MS game and a like
Yeah.
I believe NES or SNES game. And both of those games were completely separate versions. They had different stories, different characters, and different gameplay. So
Wow.
the remake
Okay.
Memories of Celceta had to attempt to blend what was basically two games created from the same premise with very little developer overlap into one coherent story. Which, from what I have played of it, it does very well. I do have to get back to it. The ones that I have finished at this time are um, 8, 9, and I'm very close to Origin, but it's fun seeing it evolve from, like I said, because you start with this very top-down action RPG hack and slash,
Hmm.
which is E6, Oath and Felghana, which is the remake of 3, and then Origin. And then you get E7, which is very close to East Origin, but you have three characters running around and then it's 3D
Yeah.
graphics. And then Memories of Celceta is an expansion from 7, and it has more dynamic camera angles, taller characters that are less similar to the old sprites.
Hmm.
Um, and
Like East 8 and 9
Yeah,
then just
and
look
then
like
East 8 is
very
yeah, it's an
different.
evolution of Memories of Celceta where they're like, all right, screw it, camera behind the character. It's just a full-on 3D third-person hack and slash action RPG, and it is very fun.
Okay.
Um, I think East Origin and East 8 are probably the two best places to start the franchise for um,
Anyone who's
anybody that like
interested.
wants to get into it because I think they are, from what I have experienced, they're both good fun times that are fairly standalone experiences, and they're
Mhm.
also both towards the end of that sort of party style of gameplay, which makes them very approachable and very polished compared to the other games that predate them in those styles.
Okay.
With East Origin being the last gameplay in like the solo hack and slash style, and then
Mhm.
um, East East 8 is not the last party game. That is actually East 9. East 10 is going in a sort of Knuckles Chaotix two characters tied together direction.
Okay.
Where
Interesting.
you have two characters that are they can either fight together as a part of a pair that has a magic band connecting them, or they can fight
Mhm.
solo. Um, East 9 is a party game like East 8 is, but there's a open city that you have to explore, and as you get more characters, you get these special abilities because they have their little phantom thief forms called the monstrums in that game. That is the gimmick of that game.
Okay.
And their abilities will usually allow you to navigate the city, you know, get around. There's a lot of exploration focus in that one, but unfortunately, East 9 is East 9 is a NIS America production, and the most recent one in the series at that. So until East 10 comes out in America, that game is continuing to be sold at full price. Its summer sale price right now is $40, and I love that game. It is my favorite of the East games I've played, but I do not recommend people play that game for $40 because these
$40.
are budget titles, and at times they feel like it.
I see. I see. Because yeah, East is like, is it? It's Nihon Falcom, right? Is
Yeah,
it?
it's
It's like
sort
their
of
big.
the
It's like their
flagship
biggest
series.
series.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of the flagship series of Nihon Falcom, although Legend of Heroes has a more
Yeah, because
Legend
Legend
of
of
Heroes
Heroes, I
is
think, is the other game.
yeah.
Who does not the Trails of, but Trials of is or is that is part of the Legend of Heroes? I think
Uh, it is Trails of. Trails of is part of
Trails
Legend
of.
of
I'm
Heroes.
getting them mixed up with the
Yeah,
Bandai Namco one.
in Japan, they're sort of like sister series. Um, yeah, Warrior says we might be thinking of Trials of Mana, which is Square. Uh,
Yes, I might be.
yeah,
Yes, I am.
yeah.
That is what
In
I'm getting
Japan,
mixed up
Legend of
with.
Heroes and Ys have
And
always been on kind of
Tails.
equal footing, but Ys has always been much more popular around here until I think fairly recently because of Trails of Cold Steel, which I think sort of blew up in the West a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think we're
It's
getting
'cause
to
it's
the
got that
point
good
where,
name.
yeah, Trails might have a larger international fan base, at least in terms of like active fan base.
Okay. So I guess I got two more questions for about Yeast. The first being like, what do you have you been playing them on PC or have you been playing them on Switch? Because I feel like if it was something I was going to jump into, I'd probably want to do it on Switch because that's my main platform. But like I know Origins is on Switch and I know that 8 and 9 are on Switch, but how are they compared to like other versions, I suppose? Because Switch
Um,
ports can also be notoriously just terrible.
so I have looked into it a little bit, and thankfully we have our buddy Huff, who was also a fan of the E series, was actually the person that introduced me to it alongside JC MZ from the Source Gaming Discord.
Mhm.
Um, and Huff, I believe, played everything on Switch, so
Okay.
Yeast Origins and Yeast 8 apparently both run very well on Switch and are good versions of those games. Yeast Origin was originally like a early to mid 2000s PC RPG, so that doesn't surprise me.
Hmm.
Whereas Yeast 8 was originally just a very impressive late game Vita game, so it running on Switch doesn't surprise me either. Um, I played the games on. I'm playing East Origin on PC, and I played East 8 and East 9 on my. Well, I played the PS4 versions through my PlayStation 5,
Okay.
and all of those ran just perfectly. They ran great, no issues. Um, there is one unfortunate thing, however. Again, uh, NIS America production, including the localization, and I believe the Switch port was handled by NIS instead of being handled by Falcom.
Hmm.
So East 9, again, I love that game. Maybe don't love it enough to recommend it at $40 to $60, but uh, apparently East 9 does not run very well on Switch at all, so
Oh no, that's not great.
cannot recommend that version of the game, unfortunately.
Damn. Well, I think if I was to try any of them, it'd probably be Origin again, because that's the one I've had the most. That's the one I've actually played and I enjoyed. So I feel like it's a good place
Right.
to actually start.
It
um,
helps that East Origin is a prequel. It's
yeah,
1,000 years before all of the other games, which star this red-headed guy called Adol.
yeah, that was going to be
Um,
my next question because I know Adol is the main character of Yeast, but like, is the Yeast story like a continuous one with each game, or is it like a Final Fantasy type deal where every game is different? Is Adolf the main? Because he looks like he's the main character of like every single Ys game.
yeah, Adol's the main character of every single East game except for East Origin, where you have those three characters you can pick between, two at the start, one unlockable.
Hmm.
Um, and it's sort of an interesting situation because East is a series of games that each game, with the exception of one and two are actually a duology in that two
Hmm.
picks up exactly where one leaves off, and one is like half of a story.
Right.
Um, that's why they're always sold as one game these days, with the remastered East One and Two Chronicles. But
Hmm.
um, the idea behind the series is that each of the games in the franchise are supposed to be novels that Adol, who is a lifelong adventurer, wrote about the various adventures that he went on over the course of his life. And that at
Okay.
some point, like when he was 60 years old or something, he went missing in the Arctic region. And they went to the place that was supposed to be his home, and they just found an empty shack that was just full of these books.
Hmm.
So it is the Easter games are that's the setup. It doesn't usually ever come up in the story, but the setup of these games is that they are retellings of adventures in the life of this great young adventurer. So these games will be often be out of order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they will make a new East game and be like, okay, when does this one take place? Well, we want to set it here. I think at this point there are like three games that are set between East 2 and East 3.
Oh wow.
Um, because like you have East 1 and 2, which is a continuous story, and then East 2 is going to lead directly into the beginning of the soon to come out East 10,
Hmm.
which then leads into Memories of Celceta, where Adol goes to the forest region of Celceta and maps out this great forest that nobody has been able to make a map of, with this big tree in the middle of it. And then that leads into, I believe, um, I don't remember. I believe maybe
One of the other
7.
games.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which leads into like 8, which leads into like 5, which doesn't matter. Don't play it. It's bad.
That he was having a bit of writer's block when he wrote that book. Just bullshit
uh,
the little of it.
yeah, it's really funny. Most of the games are disconnected with the exception of East 2, like I mentioned earlier, and I think the other one with the strongest connections to prior titles, because obviously it is all one continuous story, but because it's told out of order,
Yeah.
um, it's basically like each new game after like East 4 or so, they just started saying, actually after East 3, because East 4 is set between 2 and 3. So after the third game in the series, they were like, screw it, we could just every new chapter of this story that we write is just something we're retroactively adding into this like long adventure at any point in time that we want to.
Hmm.
Um, so
In
they
like
will
a
reference
midquill at
things
some
that
point.
happen in previous titles a lot of the time. They will. There's this guy that follows Adel around, Doji the Wall Crusher. Doji's great. We love him. Very tall, blue-haired man that is sort of his sidekick, is his best friend that
Okay.
follows him around on most of these
I
adventures.
think I've seen a picture of him.
Yeah, and he will often, when you talk to him in these games, he will reference things that happened on their previous adventures. Like, oh man, I wonder how. Um, he'll be like, I wonder how Kriegs and Mustafa are doing from when we went on that adventure in the Altago Plains. He'll be talking
Hmm.
about like E7, but outside of things like that, you can generally, as long as you go in with the understanding that, okay, this is a game series about an adventurer named Adel, and he goes on a bunch of adventures with this blue guy, and they might reference those adventures at some point, but they're not going to be relevant now.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have that understanding, you can honestly just experience pretty much any game in the Ys franchise, except maybe 9, with
Mm-hmm.
the number of callbacks in that game being a bit larger, repeat bosses and stuff like that. Um,
Okay, that's a
and just
pretty cool way of like
perfectly like
approaching the
understand,
series.
yeah.
Yeah, like that's I've never had a game series that's done something like that before, but I kind of appreciate it. It's kind of a unique storytelling idea to have them all be retroactively books that people are reading.
Yeah, I would compare it to, I think I compare it to like Resident Evil, where like for most people, you can just kind of play any Resident Evil game and get what's going on within the
Hmm.
context of that game story, but they are all connected as a part of the same story.
Yeah, let's play the remakes, in which case they're like a separate continuity entirely.
Yeah. Well, the remakes are also connected now, funny enough, because they used RE3 remake to set up RE4.
Yeah, well, isn't it like the remakes? You got like it's like Pokemon. You've got the original timeline, and then you got the remake timeline where they connect. Although I don't know whether or not Resident Evil remake and Resident Evil Zero remake, well, not Zero remake, because Zero connects to remake, but I don't know if remake connects to the remake two or
Remake
actually
2.
connects to just regular two and is meant to replace the
I'll tell
original.
you what, when the Resident Evil remake comes out, we can see.
Then we'll
It's a
know.
matter of time, I think, at this point. Resident Evil 1 remake.
I mean, it probably is. You're right. I would prefer they do Code Veronica and Zero first, though. I mean, Zero especially needs a remake. Or they both need a remake, to be perfectly
They
honest.
both need a remake. Code Veronica needs a remake because
Yeah.
it is important. It is the game where Wesker becoming a Matrix Man superhero is established.
Hmm.
And it is currently um,
It's like the
left in the
hardest game
state
to
that it was
play.
in.
Yeah.
I would love a Zero remake just because I would love if Rebecca got to do something that mattered in that
Yeah.
franchise.
And they can bring Billy back and then maybe not relegate him to just being obscure and out of the picture for the rest of the franchise. Because I actually kind of liked Billy when I played
Actually,
Zero back in the day.
I like Billy quite a lot from what I've experienced of him. He's very fun. I really like Billy and Rebecca as a duo.
They work quite well as a duo. The cop and the prisoner, the sort of archetype.
Yeah.
uh, well, all right. Shadowlink, you've been awfully quiet, so why don't you go up next on
Hi. I would
what you've been
just
playing?
I'd just like to take a moment to say if you guys hear any screaming cats, that's because I am alone in my house, so my cats are very lonely and I have the door shut and they're trying to get in.
No.
I will give them lots of love and attention after this stream is done.
You need to
Um
train them to get a podcast voice so that they can come on the podcast.
oh my god. So I you know shut up, decoy. Um so I have been playing the same game as last time, Honkai Star Rail, and like last time, I am confident in saying, yeah, this is probably the most I've enjoyed a turn-based RPG in a long time.
They got him. The Genshin squad got him.
Well, they already got me before, so this is nothing new.
Fair enough. Fair enough. How long is Honkai? Like, is it like a complete game, or is it one of those sort
No,
of games that just kind of goes on forever?
it's being released piece by piece, just like Genshin was, which
Right.
I've seen some people complain about already because they've exhausted everything in the first update, which is 1.0.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how because I've been playing the game like 5 hours a day, and I am nowhere near done.
Don't underestimate some people's ability to get through stuff in record time. Like, I feel like there are people who beat Tears of the Kingdom after a single day somehow. Even though it's like a 100-hour plus game. So yeah, I wouldn't underestimate some folks. uh, but fair. So what happens, I guess, when you get to the end? Obviously you're not there, I suppose. But once you've like hit the end of the story content, like, is there any point in playing it still?
So
Or do you just wait?
there are daily quests,
Like an
and
MMO.
quests you can find. There's actually a lot of side quests, but if you exhaust everything in the current version of the game, I assume it's just like Genshin, where you have an empty quest list aside from dailies, and the only thing left to do are like arena type side content.
See, I'm not a big fan of that, because I feel like if I was to like play Honkai, I'd probably, once I got to the end of it, if I just have an empty quest list, I'd probably just stop playing there. And then once I stopped playing, I probably wouldn't be that motivated to go back to it when new content landed. Like, unless it was like really good, like unless I like thought the game was like fantastic and I suddenly got super into it, in which case I'd probably treat future stuff as like DLC and maybe come back when it drops.
Dude,
But like, it would have to be really good.
so the reason I decided to play Honkai Star Rail is that I saw the boss at the end of the base game content. That shit seems actually like peak fiction. I'm very excited to get there.
Fair. Well, you can give us an update in a future GMSG when you
Maybe
actually
I'll be there next week.
Fair. Well, I have been continuing my adventures through the Pikmin series. Which, speaking of, the first episode of my Pikmin sort of series review came out yesterday. It's covering Pikmin 1, specifically that recent remaster port that just came out on Switch, whatever you want to call it, which I hope everyone here has watched. Please do. Pikmin 2's video has already been made and will be coming out next Saturday. And I've beaten Pikmin 3, so I just got to do that now, which means I have now moved on to Hey Pikmin on the 3DS, because I'm gonna cover all of them. And like, so I'm gonna be like very open even in the review. I played Hey Pikmin years ago when it first came out. And I just got bored of it. Like, I got bored about halfway through and then dropped it. And now I've picked it up again, and unlike with Pikmin 1 through 3, I just cannot be bothered to start the game from the beginning again, because I'm worried the same thing will happen. I'll get like halfway through and then I will just stop. So I've decided to just pick up basically from where I left off, which is about halfway through the game. And it's not like it hasn't really been massively difficult. And I can see some of the same problems I had with the game back when I first played it. But actually, I don't know if it's because there's just less of a negative hive mind around Hey Pikmin nowadays. Like, less people are talking about it. Maybe my opinion was being influenced somewhat, or if the game is just like really boring at the start, and just the start. But it's actually not been too bad. And there are actually some pretty fun ideas. Like, one of the latest stages I did in the game is actually like a snowboarding level, where you play as Captain Olimar and you're snowboarding down a mountain on the back of a bottle cap, and you're like flinging winged Pikmin out as if they're like bullets to shoot flying enemies that are coming at you, like it's a sort of shmup game. And it's like this is a really cool idea that I just didn't expect to find in this game. Um, and it's the sort of thing that doesn't work in the mainline Pikmin titles because of how those games are like, structured and how gameplay works. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, a little bit more positive about it than I thought I would be, re-picking it up again. Granted, I obviously got bored of it at one point. I may end up, after I've beaten the game, starting a new file and going back to the start and just seeing what the beginning was like again to remind myself, like, was it really that boring? So I sort of playing it in a sort of weird way, but I want to give it a fair shake. But
Dude,
yeah, it's not as bad as I remember it. It has problems though. It definitely has problems still.
dude, the moment you said that you can shoot Pikmin like bullets, I'm sold. I'm gonna play this game.
It's just a really fucking wild level, that one. And it has quite a lot of charm. Like, one of the things I like about Pikmin 2 is that it has the treasure aspect, where you pick up like random everyday junk like Duracell batteries and they give them funny names and stuff. And that's something that Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 3 really lacks, because they're based around just Olimar's ship parts or fruit. But Hey Pikmin goes back to the treasure thing. Yeah, Olimar's collecting treasure again. And you could pick up stuff like a Donkey Kong Land cartridge, and it talks about Olimar talks about like the teamwork that this game gives off, because it's got a picture of DK and Diddy on the front of it, and it has all of that cute like charm, and it has loads of enemies as well, like a wide enemy variety that none of the other Pikmin games have. So there's a surprising amount there to like. It's just awesome, but it's just mired with some gameplay issues that I guess I will wait until I finish the game and put my thoughts to paper to really flesh out. Some of it is usual Arzest problems because they're the developers of this game, and some of it are just genuine issues with how they've structured this game and what it lets you do. I also have a big complaint about the amiibos. It's just really it's one of the games that has amiibos in it. And it's like the fun amiibo functionality where you scan an amiibo and then like the actual figure appears as a treasure that Olimar can collect. And like that's cute, but it has the problem that you have to have very specific amiibos in order to use it. And that really winds me up because like I have a Mario amiibo, but I've got like the Smash Brothers one. And I can't use that. If I want to use the Mario amiibo, I have to specifically use the Super Mario series amiibo.
Huh?
And the same for the Animal Crossing amiibos, because it only accepts the Mario series, the Animal Crossing series, and the Splatoon series amiibo. And then the one random Captain Olimar Smash amiibo works for it, and that's it. And it sucks because I don't have most of my amiibos are from the Smash line. So even though I've got like Yoshi, I can't get his amiibo treasure because it's not the right amiibo, and that really just I don't like that. I don't like it when games do that. The whole point was that you could pick which sort of figure you want and use it on any game, and get the same effects. But I guess they realized they couldn't sell amiibo like this. Although I did find out that if you had the Pikmin amiibo specifically, once you've scanned it for the first time, every time you scan it after that, it'll just give you a random amiibo that you don't have. Unfortunately, I don't have the Pikmin amiibo, so I can't do anything about that. But that's like a
Very,
very nitpicky complaint.
very curious that that's what the case is. It's when you were saying it earlier, I was like, okay, well, if they're not using any of the Smash Amiibo, that makes a lot of sense because they probably don't want to set the precedent that Smash Amiibo work because then you have to, from the way that it is described, you'd have to import models based on all
Yeah.
of them for like 58 characters, some of which are third parties. Like, you're not going to get the rights to Cloud Strife for a Pikmin game, for example. But
Hmm.
if the Olimar one is allowed, then at that point you should just allow the Mario characters. I don't understand what
Yeah, like my initial
logic is
thought was
there.
that there's like some sort of, because when you scan the amiibo, it appears as a model in the game, and so if you were to scan like the Smash Brothers version of Peach, and then the Mario series model of Peach appears because that's the one that they made for the game, it's like a slight disconnect between what you're doing. So that was like my initial thought, but then when I found out that the Pikmin amiibo just will create any of them, then it didn't matter at that point because it just you're not even scanning the right figure for the right character at that point and still getting it. So
like a reverse 3D printer.
yeah. So it's just like they should have just made it so any of these will work if they were going to do it like that. Because I'm pretty sure games like I think Mario Party lets you use the Smash Brothers amiibo, and then it will just generate the Mario series amiibo instead in its game. So other games have no problems with it, but apparently Hey Pikmin does. So yeah, it is stupid, Cypher. They should patch it, but they won't because they don't care about Hey Pikmin anymore. Although, actually, saying that, I did see that the Japanese website for Pikmin got updated, and they have also updated the logo for Hey Pikmin to match that new modern vector logo that they've done for all the other Pikmin games. So they've gone to that extent. So I guess they're not hiding away from it entirely, like with Federation Force or other
It's crazy the Hey Pigment logo drop. You know that means that means everybody. Phantom
Oh
said in the chat
shit!
before I could say it. Hey Pigment switch port.
It's
Not
gonna happen.
entirely unreasonable considering what we could probably expect out of the last year of the Switch's life is mostly
I mean,
just
it's
ports.
interesting because something else about Hey Pikmin that will definitely be in my review when I get to it is Hey Pikmin feels a lot like a classic DS game, like a really early DS game, because it doesn't actually have any 3D functionality at all in Hey Pikmin.
Really, no
No,
stereoscopic 3D at all.
no stereotypic 3D. It just doesn't even turn on. And the reason for that is because, similar to other games Arzest have made, like Yoshi's Island DS, the game just uses both screens to have a vertical display of the game. Same like games like Sonic Rush. It just uses both screens to show off a bigger map, rather than how a lot of 3DS games had the gameplay in the top half and used the touchscreen for like menus and stuff. So in a way, Hey Pikmin feels like a classic DS game instead of a 3DS game, which is like super nostalgic because I just find old DS stuff nostalgic. um, Even though that game's not that old, and I shouldn't be nostalgic for Hey Pikmin of all things. But it does make me wonder if they were to ever port it over, what would they do? I mean, I suppose you could just. I suppose it's not that big of an issue. You just like expand the screen out, try and cover like half of the top screen with the bottom screen, and then just make it wider, sort of thing. So I suppose it's a viable solution. But yeah, it's a very interesting way they did the game. I want to say that Yoshi's New Island also does this. So I think that's just like how Arzest do things. They're a very simple developer. I don't think they think much outside the box. If you've ever played any of their games, and so they probably just thought, we'll just have both screens be the game map rather than having multiple things happen. But that's just me trying to remember the Yoshi's New Island game. I'd rather forget that game, to be honest.
I'm looking through their previous development history just to make sure, and outside of the Street Pass Me Plaza, which I think we can all agree probably doesn't count for much,
Yeah.
the Arzest game that I have the most intimate familiarity with is Balan Wonderworld for Nintendo Switch.
Yep. They did
So
work on Balan Wonderworld.
that is the thing I've always like I've always most associated them with is like, oh, they're the Yoshi's New Island people that made
Mhm.
Balan Wonderworld.
Yeah. Well, they were also, I mean, they used to be known as Artoon. They just basically had they're basically the same company. Artoon closed in 2010 and then just set up a new company called Arzest with basically all the same people. Uh, so they used to work on games like Blinks the Time Sweeper, like that was their game. Blue Dragon as well was also made by them.
Oh, they made Blue Dragon. That's funny.
Yeah, Yoshi's Topsy Turvy was their first. I'm sorry. Yoshi's Universal Gravitation was their first
Yeah.
Yoshi game. They've had an interesting series because I actually really like Blue Dragon. Blue Dragon's probably the best game that I've played that they were involved with. Although I'm one of those people who doesn't think Balan Wonderworld is that bad. I wouldn't say it's great, but I wouldn't say it's terrible either. But yeah, I think Blue Dragon is actually a really fun game.
I actually have not played Blue Dragon. I always remember it as, hey, remember that thing that was not Dragon Quest that the Xbox 360 was
Yeah.
trying to push as an early RPG exclusive?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Oh,
the conversation usually defaults to, yeah, remember how it had an anime? No. And then it just kind of ends.
It's actually, I just double checked, it's actually a co-made between Mistwalker and Artoon. So I think Mistwalker were probably the main leads on Blue Dragon, which is probably why it's a much better game than most of Artoon's other titles. But yeah, Blue Dragon makes me laugh because it was like obviously like this big 360 JRPG series where they were trying to have their own Final Fantasy basically. Because I feel like Microsoft owns the IP for Blue Dragon. Rather than it being like Mistwalker owns it. But then there were 2 sequels to Blue Dragon that were both on the DS. One is like a Final Fantasy Tactics type game, called Blue Dragon Plus, and then one is like just like I think it plays just like Blue. Oh no, it's an action RPG with real time combat. Is the third Blue Dragon game, Awakened Shadow. The series kind of went on a wild side story. It's a wild sequel life. Or I can't speak now. No, it doesn't play like Beyblades. All I really remember from the strategy game Blue Dragon Plus is that you could unlock Toriyama as a playable character.
Oh, that's like the Tory bot?
Yeah, the Toribot.
Yeah, love the Tory bot.
And you can just use him in it. I didn't actually realize it was him back when I first played Blue Dragon Plus because I didn't recognize the Toribot. It's something I only discovered later.
A lot of people don't know about the Tory bot, but it's really cute whenever an artist has a sort of avatar character that they use to express themselves, and then you see that avatar character pop up in something as a reference to them.
Yeah, the only other one I can really think of is the one from the One Piece author, who has the fish-headed guy who shows up as an assist in one of the One Piece fighting games on DS. I think Gigant Battle 2. He's like one of the last unlockable character, and it's just the author, and he
Yeah.
draws like manga panels over the enemy and traps them in him, which is a
There's
cute summon.
there's this cute little like onion tofu creature thing that appears on usually on merchandise in some things in Guilty Gear, as always as like a side little reference, like a cute little thing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is supposed to be just this little baby boobop that was drawn up by Daisuke Ishiwatari, the creator of Guilty Gear, and also the main composer and illustrator of a lot of the early games, just to be something he was like, "This is my funky little guy," and then that thing will just show up sometimes.
Cute. Is
Don't
Blue
remember what
Dragon
it's
any
called.
good? Says JMC. I think it is. I actually never beat Blue Dragon, to be fair. I had a friend who loved it though. Really got into it, and I enjoyed what I played of it at the time. It's just one of those 100-hour long RPGs that comes with like 3 discs.
Ooh.
So it takes time
Yeah,
to
3
play
discs on a
through.
console where that was very rare.
Yeah, but if you've ever played Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, to be honest, it's very similar to that. Like, arguably, this I could almost count this as my first Dragon Quest experience because the 2 games are very similar to each other. So I think it's good. The first one, anyway. I like the tactics game. It didn't do as well. The third one is apparently not great, but I never played it, so I'm only going off of what I've seen from online reviews. But yeah, that's that's the tangent for for Artoon. So, okay, there hasn't been much in the way of news for this week, gaming news. So we thought we'd talk about a little the Bandai Namco event that was happening at Anime Expo yesterday. Just touch on that briefly, and then our main topic was going to be on GameCube games that we might want to see come to Switch. But first, let's talk about Bamco because yeah, they were at Anime Expo, which is going on right now over this weekend. And yeah, the only thing I know that they showed off is that new Jujutsu Kaisen game, which looks, I guess, like the kind of looks a bit like Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, but it's made by the My Hero people. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that My Hero game was absolute pants. So,
So there's something very funny in the trailer for the Jujutsu Kaisen game. A friend of mine pointed it out, but if you look at the trailer, there's a mouse cursor in it.
Oh no!
So that's an indication of the quality on display here.
Oh no! That's like a rookie error in editing. Jeez.
It's very funny. I remember specifically. It's funny because me and a friend of mine have been hyping up Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 because I absolutely loved season 1 and he is a big fan of the manga. I've been waiting for the anime to drop before I read more.
You're in for some good shit, by the way. I've also up to date
Oh,
on the manga. The next season is going to be.
Absolutely believe that. I've heard they're going to cover the Shibuya arc, and from everything I know about that arc, I'm in for peak fiction, I'm sure. But we've been hyping it up. We've been every time we get in a call together, we'll be like, "Hey, do you want to watch the Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 trailer?" Because we want to hear the opening because that song is so good, and we don't want to wait around for the opening to drop. And last night after the game trailer, Jason was like, "Hey, Kriegs, guess what?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "1 week." So we're just counting down the time to the Jujutsu. We're counting down to the Jujutsu Kaisen episodes releasing, and I think it says a lot when us two were watching that Bandai Namco presentation and saw that there was no Budokai Tenkaichi 4 and the end cap was this very kind of not very good looking JJK arena fighter as far as compared to other arena fighters that have come out recently, such as the Demon Slayer game and how BT4 is shaping up to look. Everything else, the Jujutsu Kaisen, even the MHA games by the same developer, JJK looks really not very good in motion. Animates very stiffly. Character models don't look that spectacular compared to what Cyber Connect 2 has been pushing out. And I think it says a lot when we did not pop off for the announcement of a JJK console game at all. We were just like, oh, hey, a Gojo model that we can port into Gary's mod or Tower Unite and play a VR chat. You get a Itadori and a Gojo model to play around with and do little funny tricks, and that is kind of the
Didn't
net
need to wait
positive.
for Fortnite for one to drop.
Don't have to wait for the Fortnite one to drop, or don't have to wait for PUBG, PUBG models to get ripped, because that's a thing that happened and is happening again with Goku apparently. But
yeah, they keep giving Goku guns. You gotta stop.
One of the first things I said last night when I joined VC with my friends was, "Wow," because I had just gotten off work. I was watching the presentation at work, I joined VC and I was like, wow, that Jujutsu Kaisen game looks bad. It looks really bad. And that was the only new announcement after about an hour and a half um
Yeah, that's what
of
surprised me because it was like an
yeah.
hour and a half presentation. The only thing I could find when I was looking it up
Oh,
before this
it's the
was the
only new
Jujutsu
thing.
Kaisen thing. I
Yeah,
think
no,
they showed off a
it's the only
trailer
new
for the
thing.
next Ultimate Ninja Storm game.
Yeah, so
But I
what
mean,
it
that
was
was
is
already announced.
because it was just a panel essentially, and I think the issue was a lot of people saw that it was marketed as a summer showcase or a
Hmm.
presentation,
Hmm.
um,
But it's like
but
an anime expo
but it
thing.
is just it's just a convention panel. They were mostly just talking about stuff that we already knew about, with like one big surprise at the end. They were doing giveaways on stream, which also were rigged towards a specific chunk of the audience, and they did not re-roll when they got people that were like sitting right next to each other.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a event. It was one of the events we have ever seen for a summer showcase, which is I think why they probably just shouldn't have called it that.
Yeah,
Um,
they shouldn't have added it to all the other summer game stuff.
there
Uh,
were nearly
going on.
20 straight minutes of them just talking about the next SAO game, and all of that news amounted to we have cosplayers standing behind us. Also, everyone is here. Trademark. It was so funny. The guy specifically said everyone is here, and then he put his hands up. He expected a big reaction because he's like, I said the thing, and then he just kind of said it again because nobody really
Nobody really reacted
nobody
to it at
really
all.
responded to SAO everyone is here.
Oof, awkward. Also, it looks like a wild cryptid has shown up in our voice chat. Let's see if it says anything.
That's it.
I've been here the entire time. I'm just very quiet, very still.
Lies.
He's been standing so
Some of,
still that we can't see him.
Yeah.
some of, some of us just like to listen. We don't have to hear ourselves talk all the time.
Okay, Bigfoot, sure. How you doing, Spursy?
Doing all right, doing all right. I get to
Yeah.
save my what I've been playing, I guess, for yet another week. So
We're a bit light on stuff, so we can talk about it in a sec. We'll just finish up on the Bandai Namco
I
chat
I
that
did
we're
not
having right
watch
now.
I did not watch that at all.
I
So
mean, I didn't either, and it doesn't sound like I missed anything. I was just catching up on stuff afterwards.
yeah. I
Um,
was I was hearing. I was actually listening to some of this, and it did sound pretty what's the word? Lame, I guess.
Well, I reckon I'll be able to play that Jujutsu Kaisen game. I'm hoping to go to Gamescom this year. I just need to wait for the journalist sign up to begin, which is meant to happen any day now, I think. And I just like with One's Justice, I'm sure they'll have the Jujutsu Kaisen game there for press to play. Because I remember when they originally announced One's Justice, they had that that there like in the back for people. So I'm sure it'll be the same thing here. And I'll be able to tell if it plays well or not. Because watching the trailer, I thought that gameplay wise, it looked fine. Like it looked better than most of the arena fighting games I've seen from them before. It's just that the game itself looks pants. Like the environments look really bad, and the models look very typical, I suppose. Nothing really special about them. But hopefully I'll get to play it, and then I'll get to come back to everyone. uh, so everyone is hearing your presentation. It's not Smash Bros. Related. Your game deserves to fail.
I mean, if it was
Just
the
reading
problem is
comments.
that Smash in particular is very multi IP driven,
Mhm.
and the discourse around it is so much about the roster and about the cuts to that roster in a way that no other game is.
Mhm.
Um, that yeah, like you have to be a franchise that's very set and that's very like I mean it is, but
I think it
I
really
don't know.
depends on what sort of game, what the IP is. 'Cause
Yeah,
I agree with what Shadowlink is saying, that if they said it for Budokai Tenkaichi 4,
yeah,
they said everybody is here, everyone would be going like crazy for it. But the reason it works in that sense is because Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is like the fighting game that has the most amount of characters ever. It has
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
over 130 playable fighters, and that doesn't include everything that like the Xenoverse series eventually added. So if they including that in that as well, we could have a fighting game with like 200 something characters, something ridiculous like that.
Oh yeah, if you include all of the big important characters from Super and the Z
Mhm.
movies that came out after Budokai Tenkaichi, um, and then you include like everything that was in BT 1 through 3, you're
Mm.
looking at like a couple hundred characters in that game. That actually would
Yeah.
be very impressive, even if the depth of those characters is lacking in comparison to the amount of depth and effort that goes into a Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Character.
I mean, honestly, that's all I kind of want from Budokai Tenkaichi 4. Like, I loved
Yeah.
Tenkaichi 3 growing up, and a big reason for that is because I could play like characters like Nam and Arl and just Aurelie, even not Arl. That's a
But
completely different series.
what other franchises you think could get away with and everyone is here that would be exciting? Probably Marvel
Uh,
vs. Capcom. Just between
yeah. Actually,
yeah,
Marvel vs. Capcom definitely
Yeah,
would, because
when
that game
we
cuts characters all the time.
all the
yeah,
time, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, here's the thing about that. It's like I mean, me and my friends talk about MVC. I know me and Hylio have talked about this a few times in my server, along with our other friend Omega. Um, there's kind of two camps out of MVC, and I think Omega and Hylio lean towards the everyone is here camp, whereas I'm more in the opposite camp where MVC has always been at least the good ones, not infinite. In terms of roster and presentation and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Infinite plays fine. It's just not for me. I'm not a big fan of Marvel as a 4 button fighter. Um, except 2, I think it works a lot better in 2. I just think backporting MVC 3 characters to a punch punch kick kick setup feels wrong. Dante in particular feels bad.
Mhm.
Um, but the big thing that I love about the roster of uh, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is that MVC2 has like this huge roster of like 52 characters that has a lot of, big characters from the 90s, mainstay Marvel characters, a lot of like weird fun stuff that is, very cool, interesting off the wall picks, but over in the other corner, you have MVC3, which has a roster that is just about like after Ultimate, UMVC3's roster is just as large as MVC2, and like half of the characters, if not more, are just new characters. It
Mhm.
is everybody that needs to be there, except for like Venom and Classic Mega Man, who are still the two weirdest exclusions in that game to this day.
Yeah.
Outside of those two, everyone that needs to be there is there. And then they just trimmed all the fat and they just gave us like a bunch of new stuff that we just hadn't had before.
Mhm.
Some stuff like Thor that was like, how did this not happen before now? Or some, some weird stuff that nobody asked for, but we're all like glad is there, like Dormammu or Taskmaster or
Mhm.
you know, Nathan Spencer. All of our Slink's favorite character, Nathan Spencer. But
Dude.
um,
Amaterasu.
I'm way big on the camp of yeah. I would love to have a new MVC game that gives us a bunch of new stuff because new stuff is always what I wanted and love from the versus Capcom games. Whereas if you tried to bring back everybody that has been in a Marvel versus Capcom game previously, you're going to have a lot of archetype overlap. You're going to have a roster of like 90 characters, and it's going to be full of characters that have not been popular for 20 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to play as Marrow. Damn it.
True. If we get Spiral, all is forgiven. That's how it works. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules.
Yeah.
Son. All right. I'm
Yeah,
sold.
yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
complain.
MVC2 is fun because it's definitely an artifact of the fact that they started with Street Fighter versus X-Men.
Yeah.
And then it's the same concept of if they did Nintendo Kart, but they
Yeah.
built it off of Mario Kart 8. So
Mm.
3/4 of the roster is just a Mario Kart 8 roster, and you're like, well, yeah, I mean, they had them, why not? And I
You
think the
know,
difference.
Mm.
Uh, uh, I,
sorry, it's
yeah, go ahead.
kind of funny when you think about it. MVC2 kind of is their Smash Bros. Ultimate
Yeah,
in a way.
they just threw
Yeah.
everybody in there.
They just put all the Darkstalkers characters that they had from the games that were currently there at the time, and they added
Yeah,
in Servbot for some reason.
it's super interesting. I think the problem is too is part of the problem is that while people do play Smash competitively, um, obviously the
Mhm.
balancing in a Smash Brothers game isn't going to be as meticulous, and I think as judged by kind of the main player base as much as it would be in a Capcom fighting game. So
Mhm.
I think that leaks into it too. That although obviously you have to worry about balance in Smash Brothers, that the casual player base in Smash Brothers, the sustained casual player base, I'll say it that way, is going to be a lot larger than in any traditional fighting game.
Mhm.
Which is
That's
also
true.
why it sells, 60 million copies.
That's true. It really comes down to what you want
Yeah,
to get out of your crossover games, especially
yeah,
crossover fighting games. Like, if you are the type that just wants to see your favorite characters go at it and you don't play it competitively, then that's why you get Budokai Tenkaichi
yeah. I
3.
was about to
Because
say
all the characters
exactly.
in that game
No,
are basically the same, but you can play as almost anyone. But if you want an actual competitive fighting game where everything's got a bit more balance, then that's why you have Budokai 3, which was because the Budokai series was a lot more about actually just being a 2D fighting game before the Tenkaichi games decided they were going to be more about being just a sandbox, or not even a sandbox, a playbox, Dragon Ball game series.
Oh,
Uh,
it's so funny because those games still manage to be like some of the most fun and refreshing arena fighters while still being like, yeah, who cares if I only have like 3 punches, a kick, and a beam super? I can play as Naze, my
yeah.
favorite character from Cooler's Revenge.
Exactly. So it really comes down to what the intention is with the game. I do think, as much as I think a Marvel vs. Capcom game with should have like every character from the whole series and then some new some would be insane to pull off, but pretty fun. I feel like the fact that there needs to be a competitive, like an actually viably competitive Marvel
Yeah.
versus Capcom game currently out there that people can play, and then have this as more of a spin-off thing, kind of like a perfect example. The mainline numbered Tekken games, and then the Tekken Tag games,
oh god, I love
because
Tekken Tag.
Tekken Tag 2 is basically this what we're describing. It's just like every character from the series and a bunch of random side characters who have only appeared in cutscenes, like that random butler guy, just thrown into the game, and you can play as any of them. But nobody plays Tekken Tag 2 competitively because it's just not balanced and well done. But they can just play Tekken 6 at the time, and now Tekken 7 if they want competitive Tekken instead. Like, you'd have to do something like that, I think, for it to work. Appease both sides of the fandom. Uh, but Capcom needs to actually get more on the back on the versus Capcom train if they want that to happen. I've seen people
Yeah.
saying they want to see Jump versus Capcom
There's a
as the new one.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot recently, just about the idea of a versus Capcom game in the future because I think just between like rumors and but between like rumors and just expectations and the fact that we are getting to the point where um, MVCI was 6 years ago. Street Fighter 6 is on everybody's mind because it's the hot new fighting game and it's really good and everybody's, popping
Mhm.
off about Capcom fighting games are back. Finally, Capcom is fully back for real. They've
Mhm.
sort of won that audience back and people are like looking at it like, all right, we not even just a guess at this point, we know that you are probably cooking up something versus Capcom related back
Mhm.
there, but nobody has any fucking clue what it is
It feels
whatsoever.
like it's the renaissance of the fighting game renaissance. It's coming around again.
It sort of
If-
is. We've got it's crazy to think about. We have a big budget Street Fighter, Tekken, and Mortal Kombat
Combat
game
game.
coming out within a year of
Mhm.
each other. And when was the
Mortal
last time
Kombat
that happened? Like when Street Fighter 4
4.
and like Tekken 5 and
That
MK9 were coming out?
that was the fighting game renaissance. That's what I'm saying. It
Yeah.
feels like we're in the fighting game renaissance. It's happening again.
Mhm.
Because I think sometimes I forget exactly how old I am, but I feel like 2D fighters kind of took a nap for a long time. Um, and everything comes and goes in waves, right? Everything ebbs and flows. So you had, I guess, in the early 2010s, I feel like a big resurgence of it. And then it kind of died off a little, but I feel like we're definitely back there again. Um,
Mhm.
I
You've
I
lived through 2 fighting game renaissances.
oh yeah, I will. I'm a veteran of the original console wars in the 90s, so I have my scars. I've, I played Street Fighter on a Sega Championship Edition on a Sega Genesis with a 3-button controller. I've paid my
A real
dues.
OG here.
It's
Paid my dues.
yeah, no, it's really funny to be thinking about the idea that fighting games are having a second renaissance, because really during the 2010s they technically didn't go anywhere. It
No,
really just kind of comes down to the fact that Street Fighter 5 and MVCI were considered like a big disappointment, and you look at that and it's like, wow, everybody that has ever said the health of the fighting game community is dependent on how good Street Fighter is doing at the time really weren't kidding. It
you
is
know what
really
happened?
just the truest statement ever.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
happened is that the companies got good. So
Yeah. That's true. 'Cause I feel like a lot of the vibe around fighting games was Capcom in general, because like the back in the day, what Capcom had, like Darkstalkers and Street Fighter and the Versus Capcom series and
Yeah.
all of that, and then Capcom went through its own little pocket of just being awful in
yeah,
around
Oh,
the
absolutely.
time, and
Capcom
that
Fighting
had a
Evolution.
yeah, that just had an effect on everything. And like even prior to Tekken 7, like I can't comment on how the fighting game community was massively, but just as a casual Tekken fan, I completely fell off around Tekken 4 and only came back because Tekken Tag 2 was like one of the only games that the Wii U even had. It's the only reason I came back for Tekken. And then Tekken 7's like actually great. But I have no clue on the qualities of Tekken 5 and 6.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, was all around the time where
mhm.
I,
And
I
Street
I
Fighter
really need to
X
look it up.
Tekken as well was also really
Where
bad.
when Inafune had the most control over things in Capcom,
It
things started going down. Which is funny
Oh, yeah.
because I think a lot of what Inafune has done and what he's been connected to has actually been good, actually. But he's one of those "you live so long, you become the villain" types, where he got too much power and took the company in a direction that was super bad.
Yeah.
Um,
He's just
go
kind of
ahead.
a goober. He's not the kind of person that should be
No,
making Miyamoto type decisions
no,
around a company.
no.
yeah. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did like what was that game that came out on Xbox that was from his company?
Recall.
Recore. I liked Recore. I'm a Recore apologist. I think that one was good.
I wanted to play that Penguin pirate game that he announced and then never released.
Yeah. Oof.
Came and went out of nowhere. I thought it looked interesting. And then it
It's it,
died.
it's funny because your spiritual successors can become a mighty number 9, or they can become a bloodstained ritual of the night. You never know. It's a crapshoot.
Hey, does this new game by Goodfeel that they announced count as a spiritual successor to the Goemon series?
Um,
Because it's made by people who worked on the Gambari Goemon franchise, and I mean, it's
uh,
this. definitely the same vibe.
I mean, I would say it. I would say it. Yeah.
Good, because that
100%.
might be the best one because it looks great. It just needs to. Please don't be Japan only. I need to find an easy way to say its name because its full name is something like Otogi Katsugeki Mamade no Bakaru Oracle Saitoro no Seinen, which is like a mouthful, and I don't know how to shorten that to anything recognizable.
You just call it that one.
Yeah, the good feel game.
So,
all right. Do you want to talk about what you've been playing then?
I mean,
real quick.
For the past year.
We got 2 super chats. The first one from Huff for $2, who says, "Carcinization comes for us all." The second one from Project Alpha saying, "Give Creekman money, thanks," for $10, and then for $9.99. I should specify because the next super chat that we just got is from Huff for $10, saying, "Don't give Creek money."
Well, that one is more than the previous one, so so this is a bid now.
Life or death for the animals. That's what we're doing now. Super Metroid speedrun it, baby.
Thank you for the super chats, guys.
I have recently beat Super Metroid, so I guess that is something that I have played.
Nice. How many times have you beaten it this time?
I haven't counted, and I'm not one of those people that beats games all the time. I don't speed run games. I'm not that sort of individual. But I mean, I have to have beaten Super Metroid like maybe 20 times in my life.
Yeah, I'm gonna say you've definitely at least beaten it 2 or 3 times prior to this time.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I beat it a couple times as a kid on the SNES. I beat it on WiiWare. I beat it like randomly throughout the years. But I have my little Ambernick RG353P, little Super Nintendo looking deal, which I take around with me. So I have been doing a lot of retro gaming on that just because it fits in my pocket and I can just pick it up and play it whenever. So I've did that. I did Link to the Past also for probably the 20th time. I did all of the GBA Castlevania games. And let me tell you, Circle of the Moon is not good. But I'm gonna say Harmony of Dissonance is probably the worst of those Castlevania games. It is so bad.
Absolutely is. I also played the 3 Castlevania GBA games. I think this year. I think I played them this year.
Yeah, I bought the collection, but I ended up playing them on this.
Yeah, I bought the collection. I played them on that, and I the only one I'd played prior was Circle of the Moon.
Yeah.
And Harmony of Dissonance is pretty fucking bad.
It's terrible,
my French.
Yeah, I forgot. I've always said that Circle of the Moon was better than Harmony of Dissonance because I think I've only actually played these games once. Like I played them once, and I'm like, that's fine. I'm done.
That is extremely funny because just last fall I actually played through the Castlevania Game Boy collection for the first time. And I had the wildest takeaway from that experience that I think I've ever seen people have with those Castlevania games. I think it was just because I played them all in an order. Maybe I was starting to get burnt out, but I initially loved Circle of the Moon, but I hated some of the boss design, specifically the undead dragon. Just made me drop the game for a while before I ended up going back to it. And I loved Aria of Sorrow, but I didn't connect with it the same way a lot of people seem to, where a lot of people love it on the same level as or even more than Symphony of the Night, and it just didn't hit that way for me.
No, I agree. I'm not a big fan of that. I know it's blasphemy for Castlevania fans because I feel like
I know.
I feel like the Aria games tried too hard to be Symphony of the Night, and I think that was a
Yeah,
little
that's true.
off-putting.
It's playing all three of these back to back, you can definitely see how the series kind of evolved and became more symphony-esque. Like the
Yes.
Circle of the Moon definitely feels more like a Metroidvania take on classic Castlevania, as opposed to Area, which
Well,
feels like Symphony of the Night.
so Circle
But
of the Moon was made by Igarashi. It's the only it's the only Metroidvania Castlevania that is not made by Igarashi. That was made actually by the Castlevania 64 team. That's why it
okay.
feels different. The physics are different. It's just it's
Mhm.
a real different type of game. And then I feel like Harmony of Dissonance was Igarashi getting back into it and trying to remake Circle of the Moon to be more like a game that he would make.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of similarities in design between.
Yes, there are. Let
So Creeks, yeah, I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'll let you finish your point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it was really funny. So this is absolute blasphemy, but the one that I think I consistently like didn't have the best time with of the three. Because the peaks of Circle of the Moon and Aria of Sorrow were much higher than the peaks in Harmony of Dissonance. But I think the one that I walked away with the most overall positive impression of and think about the most, like in hindsight,
Mhm.
was Harmony of Dissonance, which is the game that everybody calls the bad one. And it's really funny because not only was that my impression of the game, but I actually I got the Game Boy collection on Steam partway through doing that marathon just because, I was like, hey, if I'm going to be marathoning all of these, I might as well show my support for the series. It's not very expensive.
Mhm.
Um, and our friend Ozzy hooked me up with a filter because he was like, Creeks, for the love of God, Harmony of Dissonance was built for a non-backlit screen. The colors are awful. Please
Uh-huh.
install this
Yep.
patch that will fix the colors. And I
Uh-huh.
installed the patch, turned it on, and said, no, I like the other way better, and went back to playing the game vanilla because I am an insane person.
I'm having played it recently. This is at this point it's been a couple months, but having played it recently,
Mhm.
um, and with no bias, I think part of the reason that I like Circle of the Moon so much is because Symphony of the Night, it was and remains like one of my top 5 games of all time. It was I just really it was really a game that I've always loved since it came out. Um, and once again, I'm old, so I was actually at my high school graduation with a GBA when they just came out, playing Circle of the Moon. So I have some memories associated with that as well. Um, but it had been so long, and I didn't know because at the time Symphony of the Night didn't feel like a mainline Castlevania because you weren't playing as a Belmont and it wasn't an action adventure title. It felt like a
Mhm.
weird Castlevania spin-off. So I didn't know I was going to get more games like that.
Mhm.
So that's definitely part of it. But now after it's been so many years and I'm playing these games really without any emotional attachment, without any expectations, um, I enjoy Circle of the Moon because I feel like the power-ups I'm just gonna compare Circle of the Moon because Aria is its own thing so much to Harmony of Dissonance. The power-ups are so much more interesting. Like,
Mhm.
the card system is more interesting than the magic system. Like, you get more power-ups for exploration that make more sense. I feel like all of the power-ups and everything and all of the items and gear in Harmony of Dissonance are so boring. Like you don't get anything to upgrade your whip that like matters. You don't get any items that give you unique abilities. You just get stuff like it does more damage or more armor. Like that's it. And the level design sucks. It's so bad. And it's also probably out of every Castlevania game that's an exploration-based platformer like this. It also has it's also the most confusing. It's not like super confusing and you can figure out where you're going, but it's definitely the most confusing out of them, and that's because the level design is bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Yeah.
Although I never thought it was outright bad. That might be part of the reason that I
Yeah.
enjoyed it so much is because in contrast to Circle of the Moon and Aria, which were much more fun, had much higher peaks, but I consistently had just aspects of those games that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Harmony of Dissonance was a much more mediocre experience throughout, but I never really had a bad experience with it outside of the Fishman sections, where you were usually just like fighting just through just a wall of fishman enemies. But even that was sort of mitigated by the fact that the main appeal of the game for me was like, hey, it's short, it's fun. I have Juiced, and I am Juiced Belmont's strongest soldier. And you have the magic system, which was much less interesting than the card system, but didn't have to grind out for anything.
That's true.
And which I think that was one of the biggest issues with
Both
um,
Aria and Circle of the
with
Moon.
both Aria
Yeah,
and Circle of the
Circle of the
Moon. If
Moon
you
is
just didn't have to
definitely an
grind for things, it
issue.
would be so much
Yeah,
better in both
Grinding for
games.
cards is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
the drop rates are really, really low in Circle of the Moon for some reason.
Yeah, it's been like half a year I think since I played these games, but I think the main things I remember with Harmony of Dissonance is the level design is like atrociously bad. Like because the map design, being able to get around the map in Circle of Moon once you've got like you find the warps and stuff, it's actually pretty convenient to go back and forth to places to look for stuff, which you kind of want in the late game for a Metroidvania. But because Harmony of Dissonance has the double-sided map, it's like absolute ass to get anywhere.
It's very funny.
It's
in the late
just
game.
fucking garbage, and like the map's like trying to push you. It's like one of them sort of fake open worlds where you can go anywhere but you can't because there's a specific direction you have to go through the game. And like, but they really hammer it in this game by just like locking off half the map. So even if you're on the right side, you can't even like get through the center tower until like the very end late game because it's sealed off by a key. And so it's just a big pain to navigate. And like you said, I think the power-ups in Circle of the Moon are just better in general than they are in Harmony of Dissonance. So it just felt like a step backwards in every regard to me. I'm also not a huge fan of Just Belmont. I think of all the Belmonts, he's probably like the most boring to me.
He is not like that exciting, but I would make the argument a lot of the Belmonts are that exciting. I just really like his design. I like the way that he plays and moves around because I like the way that he
but I hate his design. So on the other hand,
I really like his design. I think it's really good. But I think specifically, I really like the way that he blends the Belnades side of the clan with the Belmont side of the clan, being, that he uses magic and his whip in conjunction, and that allows him to do, he has the ice move that is Stinger, and he's got, the fireballs and all that stuff. I think it's a really cool little move set that he's got. He'd be really fun in a Castlevania fighting game. But another thing that I love about Juiced is that Juiced is like kind of a little weirdo. He's got his interior decoration thing going on in the side.
You just build a little room for yourself,
which he has no reason to be doing whatsoever. And no reason for it to be affecting the ending that you get, but it does, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
You have his interactions with like the map guy. I actually was really kind of endeared to, even though he is like, it's weird. Harmony of Dissonance is like kind of a nothing burger game, and Juiced is not really anything special as a character. But I just am weirdly fond of it and of him. I don't know why.
I think my problem with Juiced is that and it's definitely partly his design. He just feels like let's do Alucard again.
But a Belmont,
a Belmont this time.
That's the thing that always comes up is he's kind of just Alucard Belmont, and I completely agree with that criticism.
And it's definitely an Igarashi thing, because even Soma kind of looks like Alucard but with short hair, but at least Soma has a reason to look like that. just kind of does, because that's, I guess, Igarashi's style. Like even Igarashi's version of Simon Belmont looks like that, but with red hair.
Yeah,
at least the red hair makes him stand out.
That comes down to Ayame Kojima's art style, the very gothic inspirations and all of that.
Yeah, and the actual I hate the it's the same castle but slightly different. Like it's not
as doing the reverse castle, but because it happens halfway through, the reverse castle only works because you have so much of your power-ups by that point that you can get around the reverse cancel really quickly. Whereas this comes like halfway through the game.
Like, it would be a better game. It would be a better game if when you got into that part of Harmony of Dissonance, that you actually just went into Circle of the Moon. Now I'm in the castle from Circle of the Moon. You're like, this is a better castle. Wow.
Holy shit.
I'm gonna do that. Who wants to help me make a fan game where it's
You make the fan. You make.
Just all 3 Game Boy Advance games, and you swap between each castle.
I'm not crazy, just 2 Game Boy Advance games.
No, we
all
go
three,
big.
It's like you know that Super Metroid Link to the Past combination randomizer.
Yeah.
You just do that
Yes.
with all 3 Game Boy Castlevanias.
That sounds awful, but also great.
It
Yeah.
sounds. It makes me wonder if anybody has ever. You guys know multi-world randomizers like that, where it's like multiple people are playing a randomizer together, and if you can pick up items in your version of the game that will be an item for somebody else, and it'll just go to them. So you could just be playing, and somebody else will be like, "Hey, what's this?" And then they pick up an item, and it's like, "You've acquired the double jump cave," or something like that.
I
That
have
sounds
not
really
done that.
fun with
That's-
Symphony of the Night. Just like 4 people trying to make it through Symphony of the Night through a randomizer with each other.
That sounds like a really interesting concept. I've never heard of this before, multi-world randomizer.
Why don't
Oh,
we do
people-
this?
Yeah.
We did it at one point with Slink actually has helped us try to set it up for Ocarina of Time multiple times, which I would actually now that very recently I played through all of Ocarina of Time for the first time after never
Oh,
finishing
damn.
Ocarina of Time 3D as a kid, and I really liked it, so I'd be down to do that sometime.
Yeah, I'd be down for doing that with Ocarina of Time. I just found that you can also do it for A Link to the Past, which feels like the go-to game for randomizers.
I told you
Oh,
guys
sure.
that I did do the Super Metroid Link to the Past randomizer with a friend where I passed off the controller.
Yeah, I
for
knew
the
you'd
game.
done that.
That was very fun.
Yeah, should do this multi-world one. The only other randomizers I've done other than the original Link to the Past one was I did a Pokemon Gold randomizer, which is like wild because it's the early game changes so much of how you play that game. Because I did a warp room randomizer, so I ended up being like sent to Kanto immediately, where every trainer was like level 40 and I had a level 5 starter. And so I spent a lot of the early game stealthing my way across routes because any encounter would lead to death. And any death would lead to less money, which means I couldn't buy Pokeballs to be able to catch new Pokemon. So
Randomizers for Pokemon are so funny. I think Pokemon was my introduction to doing randomizers. I've tried to do a couple for Dark Souls, with that being my favorite franchise, but the randomizers for Dark Souls can be like awkward at times because a lot of when you're getting randomizer things in that game, a lot of time you're just going to be picking up different weapons in new locations. It can be really funny, but it's not as funny as here is Arceus on Route 1. The funniest experience that I had with a randomizer was the first time that I tried to do a randomizer for Pokemon was a Pokemon White Nuzlocke. Because I'm not a big Pokemon guy, but Pokemon White was my first it was the first one that I got into. I was a Pokemon Diamond kid, but White was when I was like, okay, this is kind of gas, this kind of Kino. But I played that, and it was a randomizer Nuzlocke. It was my first time trying a Nuzlocke too, and our buddy Huff, who's like, he knows more about Pokemon than I have. No, Huff has forgotten more about Pokemon in his life than I will ever know about anything ever. And he was like, all right, listen, buddy, when you do a Pokemon randomizer, or when you do a Nuzlocke especially, you are going to get attached to whatever you end up getting very early on, especially if it ends up living. And on Route 1, we found a Minun that had, like, Judgment and Levitate, or something like that.
Wow.
But it was a Minun with Levitate that had a really strong electric type move.
Mm-hmm.
And Huff said, "Congratulations, you beat the game." And that Minun, we named it Rat God after Mad Rat Dad, and that took me through the end of the Elite Four, and we got really attached to it. And I said, "If this thing dies, I am quitting the run." And because of that run, now Minun is one of my favorite Pokemon, which would not have been the case before I did that.
Nice. That does happen. Sometimes it really is just your whatever happens in the game is what suddenly makes a Pokemon really popular. for you.
Oh, absolutely, because that's that's a story. That's a
Yeah.
connection you can have.
I remember I only attempted Nuzlocke once. I never finished it, but I didn't lose. It was Pokemon Sapphire, and I made my Nuzlocke JoJo themed. So every Pokemon I caught had to be some sort of stand. I think it was. And I made it. I made through the game pretty well. But I remember losing my Machop that I'd named the Hand to Team Magma Grunts on the volcano, and I was very upset by that.
Which
But it
Pokemon
made me.
was
It was.
iconic JoJo's character, Boys Man.
I don't know if I got to Boys. I don't know if I had a Boys Man. Actually, no, because Boys Man hadn't come out in the manga yet. When if Boys Man is the stand I'm thinking of.
It's from part 4.
Oh,
Boys
okay. It's
to
not the one
Men.
I'm not the one. It's not the one I'm thinking of then.
That's the English localization name, which is
Yeah, Boys
incredibly
Man.
funny. It's
I was
so
thinking of
funny.
the part. I was thinking of the stand from part 8.
My favorite
Um,
JoJo English localization name will always be Zipper Man.
Nah, it's got to be Flaccid Pancake. That's always the best one.
I don't know if they're going to keep that. They didn't.
They didn't keep that, and I was very upset by it.
Cowards.
They better keep Filthy Axe done at a reasonable price, because that's also a great localized stand name for Dirty Deeds done dirt cheap.
Can they keep FARP? I don't know if they can keep FARP. It's
Farp. Do it. Filthy Axe done reasonable. No, because they call it that, but they still call it D for C when they shorten it.
oh my god.
So they still say Filthy Axe done at a reasonable price, also known as D for C, which just doesn't work, but they do it anyway. So yeah, I hope that they keep that one. I can't remember which stand it was now from part 8 that I was thinking of, and I can't find a good list of them either because the JoJo wiki is a pain in the ass to navigate. It seems.
Is it a
Oh,
fandom
well.
wiki?
Yeah, fandom
Oh, that'll
wiki.
do it.
No, there's
Alright,
a
guys.
there's a JoJo wiki. It's way better.
Yeah, the JoJo fandom wiki. I think I'm on the right one. I'm trying to find the stand. Forget it. I can't be bothered now. Oh well. What was I gonna say? Yeah, Pokemon.
I still haven't talked about all of the games I've played over the last year.
The thing I was going to conclude is my Nuzlocke made me really like Electrike from Gen 3, which is what I'd named Crazy Diamond. And it carried it carried me just as much as my Star Platinum Sceptile as I went through the game. Yes, all right, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I have a
Mhm.
long list of games because I haven't been on a Good Morning Source Gaming in like 8 months. So I mean,
Well, we hadn't had one in like 8
Buckle in,
months.
boys. I'm about to go over every single run that I've done of Dead Cells in detail.
All right, no, we're coming towards the end of the 2-hour mark, and we'll probably save the GameCube stuff for another episode. But what is the latest game you played?
The latest game? Okay, I mean, you wanted me to just cut to the quick.
Yeah.
You So well, my wife and I are playing The Last of Us Kirby Edition.
Nice.
Yeah. The what's that? I'm
Forgotten
playing
Land.
Forgotten Lands. Yeah, that's what it's called. Which is fun. I've been playing as Bandana Waddle Dee, and that's not as fun as playing as Kirby. But you know, sometimes you're married and you make sacrifices. So yeah, and I've been playing. And I bought it, I think, during the holiday season, just on a random sale. But the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands Borderlands game.
Oh yeah.
And I'm actually like super and I'm still randomly playing Tears of the Kingdom, but I think everything that's been said of Tears of the Kingdom has been said by other people, and I don't need to talk about it. Fun game. But yeah, it's a fun game, but I'm gonna say real quick that I feel like the UI kind of sucks, and that no one's gonna really call out Nintendo on the fact that their menus and UI is not great, and we're just gonna be fine, and we're gonna be like, yeah, of course I can't customize my controller. I'm playing it the way Nintendo intended it to. So if I want to
I don't think
sprint, I'm gonna have to hit this button. And,
I don't
you know,
think we complained about the controller, but in the gameplay discussion that me and Slink did, that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
yet
yeah.
out. We did complain
Uh,
slightly about how the menus are
yeah. I mean, and
laid out, the inventory mainly.
yeah, it's not terrible. Also, I think Huff or somebody asked what we thought about the Bloodstained games.
Oh
They
no,
are good.
Dusty asked, yeah,
Oh,
what do we
Dusty.
think about the
Yeah. They,
Bloodstained games?
they are good. They are good games.
I've only played a main Ritual of the Night. I haven't played either of the Curse of the Moon
Curse of the
games.
Moons are really good. Curse of the Moons feel like I know Phantom actually reviewed it. So but they feel like Castlevania 3, but it's done in the way where I think a lot of the best retro kind of revival games are, where it evokes the feelings of the games, but it's just so much more polished and playable. And I kind of hate that because I love retro games, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
just more playable than those old games, and it's still hard. It's still very hard, but it's hard in a way that doesn't feel unfair. So those are good.
Well, can't you
But
play as a train in the second Curse of the Moon game?
I haven't played the second one. I've only played
Ah,
the first
okay.
one. I need to play it. But going back, that'll probably be maybe next week when we talk about what we play. But going back to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands,
Mhm.
I actually really, really like that game, and I think it's because I never played because I like Borderlands and I like Borderlands 2 a lot. I like the first Borderlands better, I think, um, because when the first Borderlands came out, I was super heavy into MMOs, and I'm all like, oh, it has the loot system, and the quest system. It reminds me. It's like I'm playing World of Warcraft, except I'm playing a first person shooter, and it was fun and it was novel. And I liked, leveling up and having something to do while playing a shooter. I thought that was cool. The second game kind of a lot of that shine wore off on me. The humor in the games it's fun. I enjoy it, but like it was also getting to be too much by the second game. But so I never played Borderlands 3. So it's been like years since I played a Borderlands game. So I think that and I never played the DLC for the Tiny Tina DLC that did this before in I think Borderlands 2 either. Um, maybe that was in 3. I think it was in 2. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, like it's super fun. I feel like it's been so long since I played a game a game in this series with these mechanics that it kind of feels fresh to me. The humor doesn't feel overdone because, like I said, it's been a while, so it can be a bit much. But like they changed the grenades to be spells, and it's such a simple thing. But it makes them super interesting. It makes them way more interesting. Just kind of going around in this like silly fantasy world, with a lot of D&D references. If you do play tabletop RPGs like I do, um, it's super engaging and super fun, and like I'm enjoying it. It's not like it's not one of those things where I'm like, this is a game of the year, but it's a game that is a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, I feel like we don't put enough emphasis on, hey, this is a fun game. I play video games for fun. So yeah, I've been enjoying that one a lot too. Yeah, and then like I said, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom, but I've been playing it like in small little bursts, which I think so I'm not really that far into it all. But I think that's good. I think especially because all the mechanics are so similar to Breath of the Wild, which I played so much of, that I'm able to just get in and play 5 to 10 hours in a week, like not a lot at all for a game of that size, and go about my day. So just when I have a little time, just like, oh, what am I going to do in Tears of the Kingdom? Um, but it hasn't really grabbed me the way Breath of the Wild did, which I think is weird because I feel like with a lot of people it was the opposite. Um, but like I guess it's because it doesn't feel new or different to me. It feels familiar, and also because I'll be honest, I'm not super into the fusing mechanics and the building mechanics. So
No, but that's like the main thing of the game.
yeah, like if you're not
So
like whatever, I don't feel like fucking building a tank. I feel like playing a Zelda game. Sorry if I'm playing Zelda wrong.
You know, fair enough. You play Zelda how you like.
Yeah.
I do hope that 'cause there's that interview recently where they were talking about the future of Zelda, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Well, we don't look to the past; we just make new things as we go forward."
You don't
And
look to the past, but
I
how
don't.
many times have you re-released? Yeah.
Some people say that some people are freaking out about that, thinking that this means that they'll never make like a traditional Zelda game again.
I want a
Um,
2D Zelda game.
I don't think that would be the case. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll do 2D. I think 2D Zeldas are
I think it's probably
expected.
I think
We
it's
still don't
probably
know
the
what.
next big Zelda game will probably be an isometric 2D game like
Yeah, we
that.
still don't know what Grezzo is doing. So hopefully they're making a 2D Zelda game,
Yeah, that would
a
be
new
good.
one as well. That's not a remake like Link's Awakening was. Because that Link's Awakening being a remake instead of getting a new 2D Zelda is why people say it's been so long between
Yeah,
Breath of the
100%.
Wild and Tears of the Kingdom with no new Zelda game. Even though we did technically get Link's Awakening in that time, and Cadence of Hyrule as well, but people don't count that either. Which is slightly more understandable, not counting that, than the Link's Awakening remake. Yeah, I hope they do a new 2D game that's a bit more traditional, like. And yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my bigger wants out of Nintendo right now, to be honest, is a 2D Zelda.
Yeah, we'll probably won't see one for 2 years though.
We probably won't see one until we're no longer talking about the Switch.
Yeah. Next, I could easily see it being like a year one for Switch 2 sort of thing. Maybe it depends on when the Switch 2 comes out. I feel like we're more likely to get GameCube ports of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, but we'll save that for another episode of Good Morning Source Gaming, because I think we should probably start wrapping this one up because we're getting
Okay.
close. We're getting to that 2 hour mark.
So we got 2 more super chats.
Mm-hmm.
$4.99 from Project Alpha. The bidding war continues. Damn it, Huff. This is my grocery money. And then $5 from Huff saying, "Screw your eating habits." So I think
Huff is winning.
Huff is winning by 2 cents.
He's getting that extra cent push.
Well, he's winning by even more than that because remember he had the crab super chat.
Oh, he's winning by $2.02.
$2.02. Damn. GG Hut. But yeah, I think we can start wrapping this up. In terms of the next episode, I won't be around next weekend, so it's going to be up to everyone else on the team whether or not they want to do one, because they can do one without me, but I'm going to be taking part in a game jam. And if there isn't a Good Morning Source Gaming next week, maybe I'll just show off the game we make and then force you all to play it with me. Also, at some point, maybe this week, I need to check my own timetable. I'm thinking of doing an everybody 1-2 Switch stream because I need to record footage of it.
Oh,
and you
God.
can all be a part of it as long as you don't post rude stuff, because I need the footage. I can't show that. I will kick you if you post anything too naughty. But yeah, if you want to try everybody 1-2 Switch, I'll need participants. So I'll probably stream that at some point this week. So look out for that. But yeah, those were my closing 2 cents. My closing $2.02.
All right, this is good. I'm glad that I spent these 2 hours with you guys. This entire 2 hours.
My favorite part
Couldn't
is
have
when you
done it
record the whole
without you.
time.
All right. Cool.
Okay. Thank you all for watching. Our lovely patrons are going to be scrolling up on the screen right now. If you want to help support the channel, the Patreon is in the description. You get access to some videos early and a patron channel on our Discord. As always, I hope you have a great day, and always remember to return to the source.
Bye, guys.